It's 12/22, May 19th. So I originally ordered the hardcover version. I pre-ordered, I don't even know what this book is called. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. But that's I think that's correct, but that's the only time you're gonna hear me say that full title. But then I checked the other day when I was like, oh, it's just a couple days away to see when it was gonna come. And it said maybe not until June 2nd. And I was like, I want to be relevant, okay? So I canceled my order and then I pre-ordered the ebook, which became available now. I don't know if it became available at midnight, like Eastern time, or midnight my time. But as you can see, it will not be up that long. I just want to get a little taste. I didn't stay up for this. My family and I were watching Criminal Minds, but since I was up and I was going to do a little reading before bed, I decided to download it, and I'll show you guys the first word. Look at that. Look at that word. It's probably something like Coriolanus, but all I can think in my mind is Coriolanus, which is just maybe the worst thing I've ever heard. So if I get through like 20 pages and I still can't stand it, I'm just going to start pronouncing it as Cornelius in my brain. I'll let you know. Good night. My blanket's on. So, what I wanted to say before I got too far is that a lot of people aren't interested in this book, or were like disappointed by, oh man, what she chose the prequel to be, because Snow like literally sucks so much. But I have a fascination with how bad people become bad people, or how people are broken into people who do bad things. Bullies were bullied. And so I'm hoping that that's the concept that she uses with President Snow, and I'm hoping for it to be a really interesting character study and sort of surprise a lot of people. So I'm actually going into it, I don't know if I would say excited, but intrigued by the choice. And I also just wanted to mention that I'm going into it having not reread The Hunger Games. So I'm going in without any refreshers. Okay, really good night now, for real. I'm in a pickle, y'all. I didn't update you last night. I only ended up reading like 15% of The Hunger Games. And today I read like 18%. I'm at like 33%, which is not at all where I want it to be. But the more time passes, the more I'm like, I don't need to read The Hunger Games in 2 days. Like, and I'm going to continue to call it The Hunger Games, because I'm not going to sit here and just say the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes over and over again. Like, hello, I am here for a Hunger Games update. So I got a package in the mail today, and I was like, what is this? Well, turns out I didn't actually cancel my order. So now I just have the book and the ebook. But I don't really want that. I don't want to pay for this book twice. I'm not cruising through this as fast as I wanted to. I'm only at like 33% right now. And I've set myself like a goal of a minimum 11% a day. So it's not even that it's bad. Like, it's fine. My friend is also reading it, and she was talking to me, and she was like, I just want them to get to the games. And so maybe that's it, that I'm waiting for the games to come around. But I'm not finding that I'm disappointed by it, but maybe that's because I didn't have high expectations. I didn't have low expectations. It's not meeting those expectations necessarily. Without having reread The Hunger Games, my instinct is to say that this feels like another installment. Like, it feels like Suzanne Collins' writing, although it is quite a different version of Panem, so that's not jarring, but it doesn't immediately put you in the tone of The Hunger Games. So I don't know. I don't have much else to say. Except Tigris's bland as fuck. I'm hoping that she gets her own like character want or arc or goal, because right now she's just like the most cliche supporting character for Coriolanus ever. Like she just does what he needs her to do pretty much as a character. So yes, okay, goodbye. Ah! That was a stupid idea. I'm laughing, but there's nothing funny about this book. I finished. Obviously, I got some sun yesterday. It's fine. I guess summer is here. So, okay. The Hunger Games. I am giving this, unfortunately, a 2.5. That it wasn't bad. It just wasn't good. It was kind of nothing. Suzanne Collins is not a bad writer. She's a good writer, but I think maybe she bit off more than she could chew, because, okay, the reason that I was excited for this book is because it's an origin story, basically, for a villain. And so I'm really interested in how, I personally believe, now it was a debate in the book whether or not humans are good at their base, or, as Dr. Gall believes, violent and animalistic. I personally believe that humans are good in nature. I mean, if they weren't, I don't think babies would be considered innocent, right? If we were animals in nature, then they'd be running around chewing off people's toes or something. Anyways, because I believe people are good in nature, something most of the time has to turn somebody into a villain. So I was really hoping that that's what this was going to be. A sort of degradation of Snow's innocence into the absolutely terrible person that we see him become in the Hunger Games. And I was really let down by that. It just wasn't compelling. That's the word that keeps coming to mind. Like, the storyline wasn't compelling, the relationships weren't compelling, Coriolanus Snow wasn't compelling. Like, nothing about this book really made me want to keep reading it. It didn't do a lot. Even like the structure of the plot and everything in a book this long, you know, like 500 and almost 520 pages, you have to have mini climaxes throughout. They weren't exciting, they weren't fulfilling, and overall I don't even think the book itself led towards anything. Like, I remember being 50 pages from the end and thinking we should probably be reaching some sort of climax resolution soon, and I didn't feel like that at all. Not only in just terms of like excitement level, but in terms of bringing like an arc or a story full circle. I don't really think it did that. This kind of felt like it was setting up a sequel, and I'm not excited about that, but I'm gonna be honest, I would still read it. Oh, this title, not satisfied with it. Like, I know it's a YA trend to be like the serpent and thorn, or a crown of thorns and roses and diamonds and blood and princesses. I don't know. A something of something and something is the YA structure. A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And I appreciate that this is both literal and figurative. There are songbirds, mockingjays, and there are snakes. But then it's figurative because Lucy Gray is a songbird and obviously Coriolanus is a snake. But still too on the nose. That's what my friend was saying. She felt like the whole book was too on the nose. And I kind of agree. Like, the themes that it was going for, like I said, what is essential human nature, it was a little too obvious. And then the connections that we get to see to the Hunger Games, like some of them were cool. So the sort of inception of how the games, which were a mess in here, they were really a mess, became the sort of organized monopoly that they are in the Hunger Games 60 years later. That was interesting. Although in the end it kind of seems like Coriolanus came up with every single idea for the Hunger Games, and I don't know if I buy that. My friend and I were buddy reading this, and she kept complaining to me. She was like, when are the games gonna happen? When are the games gonna happen? And I think they didn't happen until maybe page 217, and I didn't necessarily feel in a rush to get to the games, but once we got there I really did want to linger, and they were like cumulatively a very short part of this book, which, to be fair, it's not like Suzanne Collins promised us another Hunger Games. That's not what this is. But from the beginning, it did seem like that's something it was building to, and then it kind of left it in the dust very fast. And even the actual Hunger Games that we were experiencing wasn't as exciting, and I was trying to figure out why that was. And part of it is because they were a mess. Like, not her writing, but the Capitol's organization of them was a mess. So the arena that they're in is literally just like a sports arena. So it doesn't have all of the exciting components of a designed arena where competitors, tributes can use the environment and everything. So in that way, there is a lot of less options for things that could happen. And then also we're in Coriolanus's perspective, and he's not in the games. And say his tribute wins, that's exciting, but okay, he gets like a cash prize. Say his tribute loses, nothing happens. He could still win a cash prize, or he couldn't, but like, he's a bad dude, so I don't care if he loses, but he's not so bad that I necessarily care if he wins, because I know it's not going to affect the future. The one last thing I guess that I have to say is I had some issues with Tigress. She, not as a person, as a device, she was literally just there to, I wouldn't even say further the plot, because she didn't further anything. She was there to be a sounding board for Coriolanus. She had no like separate arc or goals of her own, no personality traits that didn't directly benefit him. If you're here asking if this is worth it, I don't know. And I didn't watch any full videos, but I watched some introductions of other people's videos, and I saw a couple people say the same thing, and I was like, how can you post a video and not know? You have to know. Either it is worth it or it isn't. But because this book was so middle of the road, I now understand their confusion. Like, I don't know. As a fan of the Hunger Games from its inception, I honestly can't say that this was a waste of time. I can't say this was so terrible, it's absolutely not worth it. But I can't say that it added anything to the trilogy necessarily. Like, you could be totally fine not reading this, but I don't know if I would recommend that. Even the bad things I have to say about the book they're not that bad. Everything about it was just okay. I mean, you're going to choose for yourself anyway, but it's really up to you whether you want to read this or not. Bye.